exactly nominal.
Good job.
Winning the first Asia Le Mans Championship would be the coolest thing, because you'll always be the first. Well, actually clinching that was very special.
Taking the championship for Oak Racing Team Total was a great experience for me, and you know, happy to be back on top again.
Roger, thank you. It all went exactly nominal.
Coming up in our 1 hour program, we'll show you extended highlights of the opening round of the 2014 Asian Le Mans Series from Inje, Korea. We'll take a closer look at the categories in the field for endurance racing in Asia. We'll show you what motorsport means to racing fans in this part of the world, as well as focus on those behind the scenes who make it all happen. And we'll take a trip down memory lane with a review of last season. So sit back, hold tight, and join us for more Asian Le Mans Series action.
Before we get into all of the action from Korea, let's take a quick look back at the inaugural season of the Asian Le Mans Series. The debut of the Le Mans racing in Asia last year promised much, but the season delivered far beyond expectations. From a launch in Korea to races in Japan, China and Malaysia, 60 drivers from 13 countries competed for more than 10 teams across 4 racing categories, and the racing was explosive. Fortunately for motor racing fans in Asia and beyond, the extensive media coverage, with TV broadcasts in the major Asian markets, active social media platforms, feature videos on news and internet channels, and an array of print and web articles, meant that they could keep right up to date with all the latest happenings from the Asian Le Mans Series. On the track, the battle between Oak Racing and KCMG in the prestigious LMP2 category went right down to the wire. KCMG won the first 2 races of the year, despite Oak setting the faster pace in qualifying. But a stunning comeback in races 3 and 4 saw Oak clinch the championship by just 2 points, with Oak's David Cheng pipping KCMG's James Winslow to the driver's crown by the same slender margin. In the GTE category, Team Taisan Ken Endless swept all 4 races, with 3 Japanese drivers, Naoki Yokomitsu, Akira Ida and Shogo Mitsuyama each contributing to the 3 wins. 9 entries competed in the GTC division throughout the year, with AF Corse coming out on top after notching 2 race wins and 2 second-place finishes. But Craft Racing took the top spot in Fuji and won the second of 2 invitations to this year's Le Mans race in France, while Clearwater Racing won in Malaysia, and Team AAI Rastrada and BBT provided strong competition all season long. The GTC drivers' crown was shared between AF Corse's 3 pilots, Italians Andrea Bertoloni and Michel Rugolo, and Australian Steve Wyatt. The success of the maiden series means that 2014 sees an expanded race calendar with 5 3-hour races taking place on some of the most spectacular circuits in Asia. After stops in Korea and Japan, the series will visit the Shanghai International Circuit, racing alongside the World Touring Car Championship, before an exciting visit to a brand new track in Buriram, Thailand, and the season finale in Sepang. But in addition to an expanded season, some new additions in 2014 means that the only truly Pan-Asian Open Racing Series will be even better than before. Eurasia Motorsports has entered cars in both the LMP2 category and the brand new CN Prototype division, which has been created to open the door to endurance racing in Asia. ATL Wolf Asia will also compete in this category, while Taiwan's AAI Rastrada team has no fewer than 3 cars entered in the GTC division, with some exciting new drivers joining the veterans from last year. It's going to be a great season. With the Korean Grand Prix making its debut in 2010 and this track here in Inje opening just last year, it has been an exciting few years for Korean motorsport. Let's find out a little more about racing in this part of the world.
My feeling over the last couple of years is there's definitely been a step forward in motorsports in Asia. You see it across the board in terms of new drivers coming into race series for the first time, new team. I think circuits like Inje Stadium in Korea and the new circuit in Thailand are very important, because without infrastructure, you've got nowhere to race and nowhere to do activities. So I think it's very important that we do get new facilities.
Inje Stadium circuit is a really, really cool track. The location is in the valley of these hills around us, and it's beautiful. It's scenic. You have green, lush trees everywhere. So it's a very fun circuit to race, especially in our LMP2 cars. With high downforce and big horsepower, it makes the fast corners here really challenging.
It's a really interesting mix. A lot of gradient changes, a lot of ups and downhill as well. So.
This track is quite interesting and challenging because without the main straight, it's all the corner connected to next corner. So the driver is always very busy to turn the straight in and no stop. When I'm driving here, it's much higher than I driving in Fuji or in Sepang or other track course.
And to be honest, a circuit like Inje Stadium is a very interesting circuit to drive, because it's very technical, very up and down, a lot of tight corners, a couple of longer straights. So actually it's a really, really quite stressful circuit, both on the drivers and the cars.
Nestled in the hills several hours east of Seoul, the Inje Stadium runs just under 4 kilometers in length, with 20 turns in all, plus some significant undulation, making it equal parts exciting and challenging for the drivers. One of those drivers is AAI Rostrada's Ollie Milroy. Let's see what he has to say about a lap here on the track.
Hi, I'm Ollie Milroy, driving the BMW Z4 GT3 for AAI Motorsports, here for the first round of the Asian Le Mans Series. I'm going to take you for a lap of Inje Stadium here in South Korea. So coming down the start-finish straight here, we're doing about 250 kilometers an hour, and your main focus is the entry speed. Really attack the entry in 6th gear, changing down to 3rd mid-corner. Now I'm really leaning on the traction control to stabilise the car over the bumps, as you can see. Heavy braking here down to 2nd gear on new tyres, 1st gear on old tyres during the race, to really get the drive out of the corner. Now, we have a big problem here with understeer because the track falls away, so you have to be very patient on the throttle now. Just starting to pick up the power, again leaning on the traction control at the hill. Really high speed corner this, so be super smooth with the steering wheel. Bit of exit curve there. Again, another high speed corner. We can be a little bit more aggressive with the apex curve, let the car run on the exit. We have to be careful here of track limits because of the regulations. Now with the really tight twisty section, changing down to 2nd gear now. And then you just have to be really disciplined here, be really careful with your positioning of the car, focus on the exit into the short straight, up to 3rd gear, staying in 3rd through this corner, just be super smooth again, trying to get a good exit. And we're flat out through the next 2 left-handers before a heavy braking zone downhill as well, down to 2nd gear. This is where the BMW is really good because it's got a lot of downforce, I think the most out of any GT3 car. So you can really, really hit the brakes hard into the heavy braking zones. Coming up towards the last corner now, again up over 200 Ks, popping it down to 3rd gear, just letting the car settle, and now I'm full throttle, straight back on the power, using all the downforce of the BMW to get a good exit onto the start-finish straight. Thanks for joining me for a hot lap of Inje Stadium in my BMW Z4 GT3, and I hope you enjoy the rest of the show.
Big lights and bright colors, the future is drawing near with new thoughts and ideas. My dreams, they all start right here. So I take a step and time will tell. I'm filling up high like a wishing well. I got big dreams to take over the world. I got big dreams to take over the world. I got take over the world.
It's time to get the Asian Le Mans Series off to a start here in 2014. This year, all the teams will visit 5 countries and there will be 5 3-hour races, the first of which gets underway right here at the Inje Stadium in South Korea. But all the action at the start was with the front 2. Oak's David Cheng started from the front of the grid, but his time in the lead was short-lived as Eurasia Motorsports' Richard Bradley was able to pass him on the very first lap. And in third was the CN car of Craft Bamboo Racing. The 2 LMP2 cars were locked in a battle right from the very start, and it was one that would continue for the duration of the 3 hours. The rest of the field was rounded out by the 3 GT cars from Team AAI, with great battles between the teammates throughout the entire 3-hour race. The aerodynamics of the prototype cars really shines in the corners as it manages to maximize its downforce around the turns. Craft Bamboo Racing qualified first in the CN class and third overall, but leads in motorsports can disappear in an instant. Kevin Sir ran wide during the opening lap and was overtaken by both the number 90 and number 91 cars, as Sir fell back to 5th, despite supposedly having a more powerful car. These 4 cars remained just within a few seconds of each other for the early part of the race, even though there were no changes in position. Back at the front, the prototypes were flexing their muscles, with Richard Bradley beginning to build a gap at the front, typically by a second more a lap. But David Cheng was also pulling well clear of the field, with these powerful cars picking up as much as 10 seconds a lap on the rest of the field. Leading the midfield pack were the GT cars, but it was Eurasia Motorsports crew, led by boss Mark Goddard, who were in control overall. There was early drama for Maurice Chen in the black number 92 Team AAI car, spinning out here early on lap 3. Even though Chen was fortunately able to rejoin the race without losing too much time on his rivals, even though the car remained at the back of the field. At the front of the race, David Cheng in Oak's Morgan Judd was trying to catch the leader, but a fascinating battle was developing right behind him. The brand new CN prototype class had seen the early withdrawal of the ATL Wolf Asia team, leaving Craft Bamboo's Racing Matthias Betsch to claim pole position in the division with the fastest lap time in the range of 1 minute 27 seconds in the numbered 77 Ligier. But even though that was far more than 4 seconds quicker than both the number 90 Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG GT3 and the number 91 BMW Z4, Kevin Sir stayed behind the 2 Team AAI cars for a significant length of time. One of the great elements of endurance racing is the different classes all competing together. So even though Richard Bradley was comfortably ahead at the front, he still had to negotiate and battle against the other cars in the field, not just David Cheng in Oak's LMP2 car. And while the GT cars will on occasion pull over and let the faster cars pass, that's usually not the case, especially when they are in a battle of their own. With these 2 Team AAI GT cars, for example, almost locked together lap after lap, it made for an even tougher obstacle for the leaders to negotiate. Fans of the Asian Le Mans Series from its debut season last year will have been heartened to see the significant strides being made from the Taiwan-based team 1 year on. Craft was another team to progress over the off-season, making the step up from the GT division to this new CN prototype class, which has been designed specifically for endurance racing in Asia. And even though Frank Yu's team had some teething problems in Inje, it was hugely encouraging for both the team and for the development of endurance racing in Asia as a whole, as they had entered a car in this challenging new division. Even though it wasn't in fact until later in the race that the Craft Bamboo Racing team was able to get most out of their car, the close competition with the different classes of cars at the start made for some fascinating racing, with these 3 just seconds apart for more than 20 laps. Every move was watched intensely by their teams down in the pits. We're We're riding on board now with the CN prototype class, and this is a battle in the midfield. Endurance racing is all about the midfield battle, and the teams really have to keep their wits about them to maintain their speed throughout the entire 3-hour duration. It's not a very easy task, especially when you have a car in front of you. The aerodynamics definitely changes the way you approach your corners, and with the LMP2 cars fast approaching, as team owner and driver Frank Yu watches on. Eurasia's Richard Bradley got in on the action when he approached the battling trio towards the end of lap 11. And as you can see here, first lining up Kevin C in Craft Bamboo's Ligier, and then easing past on the inside on the gentle left-hander. Next in line was the BMW Z4, which wasn't ceding a single inch of track space, not when it was already battling the car in front. But although Bradley was held off for a while, it wasn't a fair fight, and the Britons soon went through. That just left the Mercedes-Benz car remaining of the three amigos. And even though Yu Lam had got the bump on Bradley, as he was held up by the number 91 car, Bradley soon closed the gap. He looked on going down the hill through the turns 18 and 19 and made his move down the home straight in front of the main grandstand. It was impressive driving by Bradley, who was slowly building up what would be almost a minute of cushion time at the front during these first driver stints. But endurance racing is a marathon, not a sprint, and there was plenty more action to come.
The four classes for the 2014 Asia Le Mans Series are LMP2, CN Prototypes, GT and GT-AM. The series winner and runner-up of the GT class and the series winner in the LMP2 class will be awarded entry into the 2015 Le Mans 24-hour race. To assist in the development of motorsport in Asia, every team of 2 or 3 drivers is required to have at least one Asian Oceanic driver. In addition, each team must have a Pro-Am balance of drivers. The purpose of this is to help develop new talent and allow for an open and fair competition.
Le Mans is one of the blue ribbon races. People worldwide know about it, and it's here in Asia. And for teams and drivers, it's giving us the opportunity to raise the game even further and higher.
As a team, we really gelled together. We improved a lot throughout the season, and as the results show, in the last 2 rounds, we were able to clinch a championship by 2 points, which was it was a really good fight at the last round at Sepang last year.
And as you can see of the organization, there are many teams. They have experience also at Le Mans, also of the organization. So that's why it's good, because once a team make it to have the entry for Le Mans, it's not so much different than the rules and the organization there, so it really suits each other, and I think that's good.
It's the first and only endurance championship in Asia, and it's also cross-platformed with the European Le Mans and of course the WEC. It helps Asia as well as Europe to understand each other better, more competitive, and it's also a good training platform for the teams here. This championship must happen, and it's happening, and I'm really grateful for the ACO and Mark Thomas to put this together.
I think, the hopes for this season, after our first successful inaugural season in 2013, is to maintain a movement forward, and that means growth in all areas.
Back on track, and Eurasia's Richard Bradley led in his number 27 LMP2 Oreca Nissan and was making hay at the front. Meanwhile, Oak's David Cheng in the other LMP2 car was trying to keep things respectable and give his teammates a chance later on in the race. Cheng, seen here from the vantage point of the Craft Bamboo CN prototype, is the reigning Asian Le Mans Series driver champion having pipped James Winslow to the title last year by just 2 points. And here we can see the clear difference between the CN prototype cars and the LMP2 cars. As Richard Bradley pulls away, there's about a 4 seconds a lap difference between the two category of cars. It's a really hot day in Inje with temperatures really well into the 30s, and drivers had to maintain their concentration throughout the entire race to keep their speed up. At this point in the race, Cheng found himself trailing Richard Bradley, seen here passing the number 92 BMW Z4 car with ease. And the Eurasia crew would have been the happier of the two teams right about now. But as Cheng passed the SLS number 90 car here coming into the home straight, he knew that he and his fellow teammate, Ho Ping Tung, had proved themselves to be a winning combination. They partnered up for 3 of the 4 races last year, including the final 2 wins of the year, as Oak snatched the overall Asia Le Mans Series crown from KCMG in a dramatic finale in Sepang. And Cheng and Ho had also been teammates in the Le Mans 24-hour race in France earlier this season, finishing a credible 7th in their class, alongside third teammate Adley Fong, as they formed the first ever all-Chinese driver lineup in Le Mans history. First to pit after 3/4 of an hour was Craft Bamboo's Ligier, lining up alongside the number 77 pit board, just seconds before the number 92 BMW Z4 of Team AAI Restrada did the same, but further down the pit lane. It started off as a routine pit stop for the number 77 car, but the driver had some very vital information to share with the team engineers about the car. After a discussion, it was decided that they would push the car into the garage to carry out repairs. And this is one of the more unique aspects of endurance racing, the ability of the mechanics to actually fix the car during the course of a race and get it back out on track. We normally don't see this aspect of racing in normal sprint races, but it's very important in endurance racing to keep the car circulating as much as possible. Richard Bradley's consistent driving was designed to get the most out of his Oreca Nissan, lapping the number 91 for a 3rd time in his opening stint, before sizing up the number 90. He would have gone past the BMW too, but dived down into the pit lane shortly before Yulam took off down the main straight. After 36 laps and 50+ minutes of racing, race leader Richard Bradley came into the pits after a job well done. Despite starting P2, he had led for almost the entire race and had given teammate Tak Sung Kim a healthy lead to protect. It's an efficient pit stop by the Eurasia crew who refuel the car, and while the refueling happens, the engine has to be turned off. But once they're done, you can fire up the engine and it's back out on track. As Bradley showed it was hot work inside the cockpit, let's hear what he had to say.
It was great, you know, you can't ask for anything more than that. Got the lead in a very, very scary but quite fun overtaking move at the first corner. I wasn't planning to overtake there, but, you know, when the chance comes, so be it. And then, you know, it took a little while for it to come on as the track started to rubber in, but once it rubbered in, the car was just perfect. Every step of the way, it was just easy. I was lapping within less of a 1/10 of a second every single lap, and yeah, it was really good. So. But as I said before, it's a very long race, so we'll have to see what happens. But, you know, that's couldn't be a better start, could it?
The good news was that the Craft Bamboo team had done enough to get the car back out on track. But the bad news was that the pit stop lasted more than 10 minutes. However, there were precious points to be had in the championship if they could get to the checkered flag.
It is a throttle bottom. We have a sticking throttle. So basically, every time I got on the brakes, the car would still go forward. So now we found the problem, we fixed it, and hopefully we can finish the race.
Back at the front, it was all change. Oak and Eurasia had each pitted once. But not only was Oak stopped quicker than their rivals, partly because Cheng stayed in the car, whereas Eurasia changed drivers, Cheng was now lapping around 4 or 5 seconds quicker than Tak Sung Kim. And while Kim still led just past the hour mark, the gap was down to half a minute and closing fast. Meanwhile, the number 90 and 91 cars from the Team AAI Restrada were still locked in a battle for third, less than 1 second apart. Then came the third AAI entry, the black number 92 with Craft Bamboo bringing up the rear. But with the number 92 car lapping the Ligier pretty comfortably, things were still a bit of a struggle for the Craft Bamboo crew, with 2/3 of the race still to go. On lap 44, Yulam brought the number 90 SLS AMG GT3 into the pits, and he was replaced by teammate Takamitsu Matsui. With the number 91 car having pitted a few laps earlier, Matsui's swift changeover meant that he retained the GT lead. But with Marco Seefried still to drive the number 91, it was sure to be a fierce battle. Rounding out the endurance racing pyramid is a brand new series of prototype cars specially created for the Asian Le Mans Series, the LMP CN category. Its aim is to provide drivers and teams with a low-cost option into the series, with a class designed as a stepping stone to the LMP2. Lining up in the LMP CN cars in Korea were Craft Bamboo Racing and ATL Wolf Asia.
What is the best thing about the CN category? Well, first of all, it's a much easier entry than, say, for instance, LMP2 or even LMP1, which is nearly impossible these days, like for privateer, especially underfunded ones.
This category, well, number one,
Pricing level is very reasonable.
and it provides a platform for all the young drivers to do an endurance championship with the Le Mans branding, because it's not very different from a Formula car, this category.
For me, an amateur driver is really a great opportunity to race a prototype car, which in Asia we don't get that many chances. There's single-seaters, but definitely not prototypes.
The CN car is basically a small LMP2. It has a stock engine. The chassis are free, so there are several different chassis makes available. It doesn't have ABS and it doesn't have traction control.
The CN is the good, proper, low-cost entry level for prototype.
Yeah, I think it's really good, for the young guys to come. It's a promotional category. Costs are reasonably good. Also, you split between 3 drivers, so it's a really good thing.
Well, we've implemented the new CN category in 2014, and also we've now just launched the new P3 category that will be involved in the series in 2015. I think the fundamental reason behind launching these, let's say, entry-level prototypes into the Asian Le Mans series is to give a more economic opportunity for new drivers and teams to get involved in the series.
As the second hour of the race continued, Tak-Sung Kim still led for Eurasia, but Oak's David Cheng was closing fast. Then came the number 90 and 91 of Team AAI Restrada, who were still just seconds apart from each other after changing drivers. The third AAI car came next, followed by Frank Yu of Craft Bamboo Racing. The GT or Grand Touring class is considered the entry-level category in the endurance racing pyramid. But the Team AAI cars were putting on a show. Yulam in the number 90 SLS was running third, behind only the 2 LMP2 cars, and with much more impressive looking Ligier still trying to find its feet. Lam continued to lap the Craft Bamboo car, proving that there's no hiding place out on track. Meanwhile, in the pit lane, it looks like the AAI Restrada mechanics are looking to bring in one of their cars. Shortly after the number 90 had finally been passed by team rival number 91, Lam came into the pits to hand over to Japanese teammate Takamitsu Matsui. The SLS had dropped down to 4th, but with the BMW Z4 yet to pit for a second time, the battle between the 2 AAI cars was still very much on.
Yeah, so very hot and humid. So our car SLS is no cool suits, but we have air conditioner. But my teammate Tatsuya very quick BMW driver, so I turned off the air conditioning. So too very hard.
A decisive moment in the race came an hour and a quarter in, with David Cheng roaring past the Eurasia car to take Oak into the lead, barely 13 laps after Bradley had got out of the car. It wasn't the last time the lead changed hands, but it certainly showed that the momentum had swung back towards the defending champions. Tak-Sung Kim fought valiantly to keep pace, but as Bradley had done to Cheng earlier in the race, now Cheng was doing to Kim. The camera position here shows just how hilly this track is, with the cars coming round a partly blind left-hander and then down onto the home straight before heading lower still with a right-hand downhill turn out of the straight. The track only opened a year ago, but its picturesque setting in the Korean hills, combined with its unique layout, means that it's quickly becoming a favorite of drivers in this part of the world. As mentioned previously, fortunes in racing can change in an instant, and nowhere was this more evident than during David Cheng's stint in Oak's Morgan Judd. After conceding his pole position at the first corner of the race, he saw Richard Bradley disappear over the horizon. But he kept plugging away, and when Tak-Sung Kim replaced Bradley, suddenly it was Cheng who had the advantage. By the time he came in after 60 laps, he had given teammate Ho Ping-tung a lead of more than half a minute. Ho rejoined in second due to different pit stop strategies, but Cheng had left his partner in very good shape indeed. Team Total come to this race fresh from competing at the Le Mans 24 Hours race in France. And a pit stop like this is made to look very routine by this team, simply because of their wealth of experience in doing so. Incredibly, the Oak Racing Team Total will be competing at the legendary Indianapolis Motor Speedway for the Brickyard Grand Prix in their Morgan Judd in just over 1 week's time. We wish them every success for this demanding racing schedule. The Craft CN prototype was driven by perhaps the most eclectic trio on the grid. Macau's Kevin Si took the opening stint, and he was followed by team boss Frank Yu and then Swiss driver Matthias Betsch. Betsch is the youngest of the three, but the most experienced endurance racing driver on the team, including a 4th place finish at the Le Mans earlier this year in a LMP1 car. He was also acting as coach and advisor to his teammates. Meanwhile, the number 91 BMW Z4 was being driven by Taiwanese driver Jun-San Chen, Japan's Tatsuya Tanigawa and British driver Ollie Milroy. And the team was doing a good job here of holding off Eurasia's powerful Oreca Nissan. Tak-Sung Kim did of course go through, but each time these LMP2 cars were approaching the rest of the field, it gave them a chance to test themselves against a higher category of car and see how long they could defend their position for. Racing, of course, focuses on the drivers, but there are plenty of others involved whose job is to make sure that things run smoothly. Here in Inje, we had a chance to chat to chairman of the stewards, Harvey Kuyumaro.
I am retired. I am a volunteer. I have been Le Mans track manager for 40 years, so I know perfectly the motor racing world. It's a special world. It's a big family in the world, but we find in each country we find the same people, the same passion for that. It is important that there are strict rules to be honest with everybody. So we are here to be sure that the same decisions are taken in each country we visit with Asian Le Mans Series. The most enjoyable point of my job is to visit a lot of countries, to live in the world I like since a lot of years, and I met a lot of friends everywhere in the world.
A minor rule change was made following this race, under which each team can now take their best 4 race results out of the 5-race season to calculate their final points classification. The aim is to encourage new entrants for the next race in Fuji and beyond, but to qualify for Le Mans, teams must race in all 4 remaining races of the season. That said, with Craft Bamboo having their invaluable experience of a full race weekend in Inje, teams joining the CN class in Fuji will have their work cut out to beat them. With Frank Yu coming to the end of his steady 29-lap stint, Geneva-born Matthias Betsch was getting ready to take over. While every team always wants to perform to the best of its ability, one of the goals for the Craft team was to set up the car to its potential, as well as have the experienced Betsch helps his teammates get acquainted with the prototype. Some technical issues on lap 28 forced Kevin Si back to the pits, and a lengthy stop put a slight dampener on the day. But there was still plenty of time to get some quality mileage under the belt to ensure that the car is running at top speed for the next race in Fuji. With Eurasia going back into the lead at the midway point of the race, as Oak made a pit stop for Cheng to hand over to Ho Ping Tung, Tak Sung Kim knew that he had to give it everything in his final few laps before he too handed over the wheel to his teammate. It was a good stint from the Korean, whose quickest laps were down in the 1 minute 32 second range. Not as quick as his teammate Richard Bradley, but a consistent performance nonetheless. After a 32-lap stint, Kim got the call to come in, with the team now having completed 69 laps overall, and he handed over to British driver John Hartshorn. In the overall standings, Eurasia was well clear in second place, but the GT cars were lapping considerably faster than Hartshorn, who was finding it hard to come up to pace, and was unable to break through the 1 minute 40 second barrier on his lap times. Meanwhile, the number 92 BMW Z4 was continuing its fine race. After starting at the back of the grid and making little progress through the field at the start, the team moved up a spot after 30 laps when Craft Bamboo ran into technical difficulties and had to pit earlier than planned. Rohei Sakaguchi then brought the car up another place before he handed over to German driver Marco Seefried, whose 1 minute 32 second lap time early in his stint was the team's quickest of the day. To put that in perspective, it was 10 or 12 seconds a lap quicker than Hartshorn was doing, despite the Briton driving the prototype LMP2 car. The other AAI BMW Z4, number 91, was perhaps the most balanced team on the grid, with Ju-san Chen, Tatsuya Tanigawa and Ollie Milroy all consistently lapping within a few seconds of each other all race long. The car was in 4th position overall when it came in just before the 2-hour mark, and we had a chance to catch up with Ju-san Chen after his session.
I think when the starting lap, I feel the car is quite running well, you know. Can continue the lap time 35, but just after push the 7 lap, then suddenly the ABS system is gone. So no more ABS. So this is very hard to job, especially the cause tire problem, because without the ABS, it's very easy damage the tire. So the tire is getting overheat, and the rear wheels always is locked before the turn in.
Well, there's never a good time to have a braking issue when racing around a track at top speed, but those words from Ju-san Chen just shows how many factors these drivers have to contend with when they are pushing their cars to the limit. And that's before the soaring temperatures are taken into account, given the dry and hot conditions for both car and driver. With Hartshorn continuing to struggle in the Oreca Nissan, both Ho Ping Tung and Takeshi Tsuchiya in the number 90 car went past him here, giving the Korean fans who had turned out in their thousands across the weekend plenty to cheer as the race moved into the final hour. A key moment came on lap 77, with a little over 50 minutes left in the race when the number 90 SLS just made a little mistake on this corner under relentless pressure from Marco Seefried in the number 92 BMW, and Seefried went through to take the category lead and up into 3rd position overall. The Mercedes recovered well and tried to keep pace, but Seefried was creeping away a little by little and opening up the gap. A few laps later, Siegfried also had to contend with the CN prototype who was coming up behind him. And though the Craft Bamboo car was several laps behind due to earlier problems, those issues appeared to be firmly in the past as Matthias Bech was finally maximizing the car's performance and even broke the 1 minute 30-second barrier on his quickest lap of the race. The Swiss driver has plenty of experience racing in this part of the world, and the level of competition on all sections of the track remain intense between the different categories, and it showed no better than here with the number 42 Craft Bamboo CN prototype car and the number 92 BMW Z4 car of AA Irostrada. Battle packs place extra stress and demand on machines and drivers, and the drivers must maintain a high concentration level to keep racing lines clean and lap times low. And that's a lot to ask, especially since the high temperatures had such an impact on tyre degradation. So heading into the final quarter of the race, it was looking very good indeed for Oak, and Ho Peng Tung lapped his nearest rival for a 5th time to emphasize that point.
Summertime. And we are breaking free now wherever we go.
Into the final stages of the race, and with Ho Peng Tung away and clear, the rest of the field continued to battle. Eurasia's John Hartshorn was dueling with one of the GT cars and was beginning to find his rhythm, with the lap times coming down as the race progressed. The issues continued to plague the Hong Kong-based Craft Bamboo racing team as they come in for yet another unscheduled pit stop. But as the sole debutant in the maiden CN prototype class, the pit crew was afforded the luxury of taking a little extra time to work on the car mid-race. The punishing circuit and harsh conditions had taken its toll, and the mechanics decided to push the car back into the garage to continue carrying out more repairs. The team were determined to see the end of the race as they wanted to clock up as much mileage as possible from their debut event. And while the mechanics took the time to work on the car, the driver took the opportunity to cool himself down and rehydrate, and hopefully the mechanics can get the car back up and running so he can continue the race. With time running out and Oak possessing a huge lead, Hartshorn was coming to the end of his stint for Eurasia, with Richard Bradley getting ready to give it a final blast. Each team is allowed a maximum of 1 pro-ranked driver under the Endurance Committee definitions, but in another slight change to the Asian Le Mans Series regulations, each team's pro driver can be in the car for no more than 90 minutes. Previously, 2 driver teams had been at an advantage over 3 driver teams because the pro driver was able to drive for longer. So with pro driver Bradley already in the Eurasia car for 53 minutes at the start, the plan had always been to give him the 4th and final shift.
No, it's something different, you know, we are not lucky today. First we had a blipper problem with the springs, this can happen, and now, you know, I don't know what's really the problem. I just had a spin and I felt something strange because I was, you know, doing very good lap time but still safe. So I restarted and I really felt something abnormal. And yeah, I was lucky to come in because there was some oil leak and I guess some oil on tires. So yeah, I don't know, I hope we did not break the engine. And anyway, it's a learning stage for us. I hope we'll be able to finish the race to score some points anyway.
With Bradley desperate to cut the gap at the front with a last-ditch effort to put some pressure on Oak, he lost control of the car and ended up in the turn 1 wall. His earlier efforts had deserved better, but the late drama showed the fine line these drivers tend each time they're behind the wheel, as well as the well-worn mantra in endurance racing, To finish first, you first have to finish. And it's good to note the safety cells in these cars are quite sturdy, and Richard Bradley is able to walk away unhurt.
Yeah, he reported there was pickup on the tyres and it was taking a bit of time for the grip to come back in, and just went into turn 1 too fast and hit the wall. So game over. It's a shame.
It's race over for Eurasia, but meanwhile Frank Yu managed to take the Craft Bamboo Ligier back out for one more lap. But a bittersweet day had a happy ending as the team took maximum points in the CN prototype class. Let's take another look at Bradley's crash. And as you can see, the car just slips to the left as he tries to go around the right-handed turn. A combination of too much speed and something on the track perhaps, but either way, it's the end of his race. Well into the third hour of racing here in Inje, and the action just keeps on coming. Ho Ping Tung in Oaks Morgan Judd was now just 10 laps ahead at the front of the race as he again lapped the GT pair from Team AAI Restrada. But it was a fantastic day for the team from Taiwan as they swept the GT podium. So after 3 hours of racing, Ho Ping Tung made it 3 Asian Le Mans Series wins in a row for Oak, dating back to last season, each time partnered by fellow Chinese driver David Cheng. Marco Seefried took second in the number 92 BMW Z4, with the number 90 SLS incredibly just 6.5 seconds behind him after 3 hours of intense racing. So Oak Racing continue their winning streak and top the Asian Le Mans Series Championship at the moment, with Craft and AAI Restrada completing the race.
We had a flawless race. I think David did a great job, running a very stable stint before he brought the car in, and very consistent all the way towards the end. I could run almost the same lap time. So yeah, great car, great job from the team.
That was really one of my toughest stints ever. I'm happy that I can manage it towards the end because I was running out of fuel, so it was really a tough calculation.
It was difficult. It was difficult. We had a couple of issues during the race. We had to make an extra 2 stops actually. Yeah, the week's been positive. We've learned a lot about the car, made a lot of progress, and obviously looking forward to Fuji now.
The 2014 Asian Le Mans Series is off to a brilliant start, and we look forward to your company as the teams head to the Fuji Speedway in Japan for the next round of the championship.